When are we going to have a social revolt? Welcome to episode 30, an episode where we bring on two like-minded individuals who have put game planning, documentation, conversation with other like-minded folk around this very thing, social revolt. Realistically, how could this get scaled out? How could actual change happen? And what could you do today in your local community to get that started? I will go ahead and ask for your forgiveness, as in this episode, we recorded with the wrong microphone somehow. So my audio, really low, really grainy, but I believe that this conversation, at least from these two gentlemen, was potent enough that it doesn't really matter. Ignore my audio, listen to them, and let's get into the social revolt conversation. So without further ado, Tony, you want to take it first? Cory?
Well, we're both too nice guys. You go first.
Excellent. I am Cory. I am with the Take It Back movement, and I also represent Black Out the System. And what we say is that we are blacking out the system to take it back. Because for too long, the greedy corporations and the career politicians, they have frozen wages, they have raised prices, they've raised housing costs. The healthcare is insane, and it all feels like 1,000 different issues happening in our society. But it's not. It's one. It's the wealth gap. It's the wealth stratification that's happened over the last 40 or 50 years. And the goal of these movements is to get people to see, to recognize the truth that there's not 1,000 different issues in this country, that there are some fires, but we need to focus on the people with the flamethrowers first. And if we can do that, if we can actually get on the same page, which is difficult to do because they own all the media and control the narrative, that we'd be actually able to push back. But that's why they divide us and they keep us living in fear, is so that we can never get on the same page. So that's what the goal of Black Out the System is to show people that this is how we push back, that we're already coming together, and that eventually it's not just about talking about what's wrong, it's about building what is right. And that's where I think Tony can come in great and talk about what we're looking to do with these next steps.
You're so good at that, dude. Every time it's like, it's a switch, dude. Boom, this is what it is. This is what I'm always so melancholy about it all. Maybe I've just been in this space for too long. But so I'm typically the buzzkill. My name's Tony Schaefer. I run the Middle Road Sanity channel on TikTok. I've been there for years now, talking about this very specific conversation on what do we do and how do we unite the people enough to start thinking in a new way. And so I've been looking for those parallel systems, is what I call them. And almost every path I've walked down on this journey has led me back to localism. What can we do tangibly, close to us, and see tangible results? And the people that I know that interact with their local governments and foundations, or just their community in general, they oftentimes have a much more fulfilling life in the long run, and they see opportunities in networking, financial situations. It's like we're better together, and I truly believe that all of us are smarter than any of us.
What is localism?
Localism is the idea that we move away from extractive systems. Right? So as we've seen the erosion of Main Street, or they say the strip mining of the middle class, this is a phenomenon that's been going on for decades, and it's come into the public forefront right around that Occupy Wall Street time. But again, that wasn't the first time the conversation had been had. You look at what the Black Panthers had been doing. They're kind of a good example of building a parallel system with an emphasis on education that's close to you and manageable, food systems that are close to you and manageable, housing systems that are close to you and manageable, and hierarchical power structures, or what I say is like authority structures that are close to you, tangible. And that's localism. It's the idea that you're operating within close proximity to you, keeping the economy close to you, power structures close to you. And the farther away that those things get, the less control we have over them, the less say we have over them, and the more extractive they become over time. Whether we're talking about money or rights, they become more extractive the farther away they get. Layers of plausible deniability. So localism is exactly what it sounds like. Think locally when you shop, when you vote, and when you interact with what we would call the political system.
And it's the insulation.
Yeah, that would say like your fundamental needs. So food, water, housing, energy. And we've already seen some people working in parallel. You know, the Black Panther movement's easy to bring up. The Mondragon system from the Basque region in Spain has been there since the 90s, working on employee-owned businesses. There's the Evergreen system out of Cleveland, Ohio, where a group of investors started acquiring small and medium-sized businesses to turn them into employee-owned companies. And when you talk to conservatives about employee-owned companies, they love them. When you talk to socialists about employee-owned companies, they love them because it makes the employee a stakeholder. So when we talk about localism, it's hard to define it in a way that I feel like is easy enough for people to understand, but if I had to, it would be you become a stakeholder in your community on all those levels. Products, services, power structures of authority, bureaucracy, you're entrenched in it. But this is so far removed. Like our grandparents would have understood this concept a lot quicker than I think some millennials and Gen Z and Alpha will. As they've watched Kiwanis, Rotary, the Knights of Columbus, any of these local organizations, Freemasons, less people going to church. So all these things that would have very much represented a tangible localism decades ago have all but eroded away. We haven't replaced them. And I've never judged people for not going to church. Like I'm not a Christian either way or any sort of religion, but I've always said if you're going to leave it, you better replace it with something because fellowship's important. Fellowship's the glue of a community, and it's this intangible thing that good luck measuring it. Good luck trying to, have the lab coat people and the dorks give it some Latin name that confuses people and make it officially scientific because it's this intangible glue between us on this level of fellowship where community happens. This interconnected trust where if Jan and Robert are going through a bankruptcy and they didn't tell a whole lot of people, but it kind of got around, there's casseroles left on their porch, there might be a check left in their mail. This was real life for a lot of people. Not too long ago, but the idea of being that interconnected with your neighbor is all but lost on so many people in this modern time. And we feel so far removed from it. So my idea of localism is a political structure, but we can't forget that it's also a social structure as well. That's absolutely necessary, fundamental. Otherwise, what happens? Where'd the prosperity go? Where'd the generational wealth go? Where'd Main Street go? Where'd your jobs go? Where'd it all go? And now we're going to rely on far and away corporations to drone our groceries to us because we're that afraid to go out and interact with people. We want to be that disconnected. Do we want, I don't know if I can say this, but do we want Larry Ellison and a few other people to just own everything?
Small, Silverstein, Fink, Ellison, all the Larrys.
Well, but they're doing the exact thing that we need to be doing, which is networking. That's all business professionals do, and this is a business professional's world. They tell us all the time in the Tony Robbins books and the Ed Milet's or Gary V's, they're telling you, like, go network with people, meet people, connect with people, and this is how these things happen. This is how plans happen, and interests align, like George Carlin said, right? And we just don't do that as a people anymore. We're removed from town hall. We don't know our mayor's name, city council, who the ward representative is, who the commissioners are, what they do, who the auditor is, what they do. These are real people close to us that are making decisions that affect our daily lives. And that's localism to me at the very entry level, because once you empower people locally, then they can start working regionally. Do you see where I'm going with this? We want some big revolution. We want to press a red button and see this revolt. But that's always reckless to me because we don't have a comprehensive or strategic plan for exactly what happens in a power vacuum if you revolt.
As social revolts, you could look at probably the most recent one, social revolt would be our own civil rights movement outside of the country, or China, I think it was in the 40s. But the most popular one's the French Revolution. That's the one that people look at. Why don't we go French? Cut their heads off, do it now. I don't necessarily think that a lot of people know the history, and I didn't either until I look into it. I'm like, is this feasible? Could we do as the French? And
That's where the Rothschilds stepped in to benefit off of the entire rebuilding.
Bingo.
Right? They stepped in and profited off of others' pain. Like, kings die, debt doesn't die. They know that. I don't think many people think about, looking at Nepal right now. What is Nepal going to look like in 5 months, 5 years? We don't know that answer yet. We do not know that. But if there's not some kind of plan, and what you're saying is, localized scale, localized a specific Main Street town, but every town doing the same thing.
Bingo.
Is the main strategy that we could get change that seems more like a revolt, that is a social switchover, would be from that large-scale micro-control.
Well, that's where what Tony was saying is I would say it like this. I want to walk into a damn general store and know the frickin' owner. I want to walk into a store and have my kids play with their kids. That's what localism is to me. I want to know who my damn sheriff is. I want to know who my neighbors are and get together for potlucks and community stuff. I just want to hang out with people. And that's what the localism really is, that they've separated us so much, whether it is from us driving in our cars to all going to separate schools or daycare, having absolutely no time to focus on ourselves. And that's where we've lost the plot in what's the point of this society? Why are we all here? Why did we come out of the woods? It's for all of us to achieve security and prosperity. And to begin with, we need food, we need housing, we need health care as the bare minimum. And then we can start talking. And one of the ways that we need to change it is we got to stop saying, going to my job, I'm going to make money. It just is you're making money for somebody else. And wouldn't you rather be making money for that somebody else that's in your town, where that money that they make goes back to it? Whereas right now, there's this talk about the layers of insulation, which is the only way how it could get here, which is the only way that somebody could live with forcing one of their employees to go homeless, to not have health care, is to have that insulation. So I think that localism is the opposite of the insulated CEOs that we have now. Localism is the opposite of buying your fresh produce from 3 states over while your local farmer is shipping theirs 5 states north. And it's bringing that all back together and realizing that it's not just about shopping locally, because a lot of those local products probably come from mega corporation ABC. And it's about untangling the whole mess and recognizing that, hey, it's got to be a step-by-step process where, like Tony said, community first. Community grows into a town. Town grows into the region. Region grows into the states. And look, we're back to what we intended already, which is to have a bunch of semi-autonomous economic regions that can be self-supported, self-sustained, and most of all have an economy that actually works for the citizens to provide them security and prosperity.
But how do you do that? How do we have accountability to these globalized systems, right? And so the best way to have accountability is when it's close to you. The easiest way for me to say it is the opposite of big business is small business. The opposite of big government is small government. And localism is something that provides that, because when we talk about revolts, who's going to do it? Is it the patriots? Is it the socialists? Let's actually dig deep into that, because whose ideology is going to be leading the charge, and what do they think the daily life of the citizens of this country should be like? That's ultimately the question that everybody's trying to solve. And for me, they rely on statism. Like, they want centralized power and authority to institute like what they see as the best way forward. When you really dig into the founding fathers and what was supposed to be built here, you see that that's the opposite of what was supposed to happen. This was the full faith and credit of a union of, X amount of states at the time, now 50 states. And within the state government, you have it broken down into counties, and counties to townships, villages, municipalities. It's already there for us to engage with, but we're not engaging with it. And I feel like this is sort of what Socrates said about democracy 2,500 years ago, when he said that the average person couldn't handle it, that it would never work. People are too inundated. They're too separated from it. They either don't care or don't want to care or can't care for various reasons. It's a big responsibility, and I think the citizen responsibility is something that's not talked about enough, because in order to yank the power back, which is the means of production, essentially, you can have employee-owned businesses. You can start to build and network with one another to create parallel systems. We can do that under the current system that we have. Like, there's already people running socialist models of business. Like, you're free to do that in the United States. That's baked into the fucking lore, man. That's why this place is cool. You know what I mean? It's like, you can just do that. And so why do we want centralized authority to institute these ideals one way or the other when this is supposed to be a melting pot? And so for me, the revolt happens when we take our individual sovereignty seriously and stop painting it as some like right-wing wet dream to say those things. That's for everybody, man. That's why this was supposed to be a great place to live. But I think also we're not supposed to do it alone. And I think that's when we talk like this, it feels steeped in right-wing wet dream because it feels bootstrappy. But it's not. Localism isn't about being bootstrappy. It's like, it's easier together, which is why cooperative networks work. That's why employee-owned businesses work.
If I'm calling the police show up, regardless of how much money I have, or political ties I have, or where my kid goes to school. The police show up. Firefighter, ambulance, USPS. You look at all these different systems that run in a kind of socialist angle, but then you bring that into the business world, and you're right, and all of a sudden, whoa, I didn't know you were a commie. That's crazy. You can't do that.
Yeah.
But I also see
until it's time to bail out Wall Street. Then they can get a little more socialism. Then it's okay.
Families get foreclosures, banks get bailouts. We know that. And I think a lot of what we're talking about sounds like pre-2008. A lot of what we're talking about, and it might date me, but geez, I remember listening to the bouncing basketball to know where my friends were at. I remember calling my crush's dad. Can I talk to Cory? I remember that. We don't
Nightmare
have
fuel.
to do that nearly as much. Especially the next generation does not have to do that. And going through some of those social anxiety and the angst and the pain kind of helps you breathe into this cultural world that we live in. But since COVID, it seems like all social skills got ripped away from people and kind of perpetuated this and gave it momentum. And now I don't have to call the pizza guy to get my pizza. Now there's this tracker, and my groceries just show up at my door, and my church is online, and my school is online, and you can go and get a CPR course online. You don't have to touch a single anything to get certified in CPR. What are we doing?
At that point, just let me go at that point. Don't put your mouth on me.
Yeah, if you pull out, I'm certified in online CPR, do not touch me. Let me go.
Certified in CPR by the Universal Life Church.
So what's the momentum shift then? Because it seems like the argument would be a lot of the things mentioned are making life easier. A lot of the things you guys are mentioning are going to make my life more difficult. I don't want to run for a board. I don't want to go to the local shop. The local shop's more expensive. They don't have nearly as much as the big guys have. I can order these clothes on Amazon. It's here tomorrow. I don't have to go shop around up at the mall 30 minutes away. Like, what's going to shift that momentum from ease to equity?
It's education and receipts. We educate people on the receipts that already exist in these systems because they think it's far and away. They think that it's impossible, right? And because think about it right now, our government is telling us actively that they have no idea what the fuck is in the sky flying around us. Could be aliens, retrieved body, and nobody really is giving a shit. Why? I know a psyop when I smell one, but that's maybe for later in the conversation. But what I am saying is nobody gives a shit because we see it when we believe it, right? Most of us see it and will believe it. And so, again, looking to educate people on what's already working, or it's getting them to understand what's coming if they don't. And that's where I hate doom porn. It's one of my least favorite things. I don't want to spook people into this revolution because this takes inner work and then work in your own home, your own neighborhood, then your communities, your state. Like it's a long game plan. It's repairing the social fabric of this country, which is essentially what needs to happen, right? But man, it's a long.
Is that possible?
Yes, you just have to show people, because what happens when you light somebody up with a compliment? What happens when you show somebody something beautiful and it works? Like the noticeable difference in employee happiness and retention. I know you've sat on board somewhere as a realtor. You've at least gone to Chamber of Commerce. You've heard what these other small business owners are bitching about. They want employees to come in and have like a value in the business. Like they want to treat the customer, you know, like I would when I started this damn thing. I want them to care. Oh, you mean they're a stakeholder? Okay, then fucking treat them like one. You're a stakeholder in the business, because when the clients are happy, you're happy too. And like that, like I always say, people will do some wild shit for money, bro. Like they'll sell you a picture of their asshole. They'll bust somebody's kneecaps. They'll go engage in genocide. Like if you fucking throw some money at people, they'll do it. And yet we're all baffled as to why nobody wants to work at these fucking jobs. It's that disconnect right there, where my conservative people in Ohio, where I'm from, people I love dearly, but that's where they lose me, man. That's my hard line in the sand, is when they start talking about not being able to pay them more. Okay, that's cool, but give them a stake, so that when shit's doing well for the business, they are too, and so are you. It's really, really simple, man. And that would start to fix this social fabric, because as of now, more people don't trust pharmaceutical companies or the government or telecommunications, bankers, cops, like all these institutions. There's so many people who've lost faith in them, not realizing that it's not the system. The system isn't a fucking SD card that I just slip into the fucking government. It's people. Systems are people. Systems are brought to life by the people who represent them, and if we're not out there representing, then the small group of people who are actively designing our future will. And they probably don't give a fuck about you or your kids. Fuck you. That's the alternative, and I hate to fearmonger about that, but that's sort of where we're at. If we don't want Ellison and Larry Fink and Netanyahu or Xi Jinping or who else is pulling strings in this world, like, they're doing it actively. They're thinking 4 generations from now. Are you? And if you're not, then I don't know what to tell you. They're driving, and you're going where they're driving. And to me, the only option is running in the other direction, which leads me to localism. Whether I listen to the constitutionalist patriots, the socialists, the communists, the anarchists, like, no matter who I'm listening to, it all leads back to localism. None of it works without localism. You have to fucking know the people who are in your town working these businesses. Yeah, they just use different language. Revolution versus revitalization. The lefties want to call it a revolt or a revolution, and the righties would be totally fine if you used their corporate boardroom speak, which is just revitalization, which is what has to happen after you overthrow the government anyway.
Well, and I think that's where I come in a lot too, is that we are wrapping working class power in the American flag, because that is what is always should have stood for. It is that disconnect that has led us to this, down this road for the last 40 or 50 years. It's saying that you are stronger negotiating on your own. You are, not going to get a piece of the stakeholder, because that's what these class of people gets. And it's been the entire reason is the lack of money led to the lack of education, which led to where we are now. And I jokingly say that this conversation led me to realize what the point of life was. Well, the point of life is education. And then I used to always think to myself, oh, education so you can make more money, so you can go do good in the world. No, education so you can remember why we became a society, why we have a country. It's not so that all of us can work so that we can get a few people super rich. It's so that all of us can have security and prosperity, because when the majority of people have those two things, it's better for everyone. The idea of a society is to allow the most amount of people to live up to their potential, because if they live up to their fullest potential, they will always excel at what they do. except we've been so divided, we've been so lied to, we have to watch out. Even when he said means of production, my head goes, nope, we call it hard work. It's your damn hard work that makes this country run. You fix the product, or you fix the part that the boss doesn't even know the name of. You're the one that is the stakeholder. You're the one that is making this company run. And the more that we can see people or get people to realize that they've been exploited, well, hopefully then they will see that, oh, if I've been exploited as a straight white male, what the hell is happening to these minority groups, to these other people in this country? And hopefully that is how we can at least get the ball rolling, is to say, y'all are being, every single American is being stolen from. And the more people that we can get to realize that, the more people that will wake up and come on our side, and the more unifying language, less divisive language, where that's why Tony and I want to come up with new terms. We are localists. That is it. We get called every name under the book, but no, we care about localism. And that's where, we have to come up. It's with that shared language and shared acts equal shared power. And that's the only way we're going to get there.
I think that first we have to establish that in 2020 we saw how brittle the supply chains were. And so by having these overextended supply chains, these far removed extractive external systems governing all these things is a national security risk at the end of the day. And I think that is something that's not talked about enough. And the more we hyper-localize sourcing our products and our services, not only does it address the mental health crisis that this country's having, but I would say the crisis of apathy and trust in institutions. Like, people don't trust anything. So to get their buy-in, it's national security, and then use the terms revitalization. And like, understand that this is why.
National security is the exact reason they didn't drop the Epstein one. So yeah.
They love that one. That's their favorite one. It works every time.
We have to bomb this country by national security. They hate our freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So you begin speaking their language to get them to make this?
Of course, which is exactly why I'm the one who started the hashtag cancel the culture war. Because people say in my comments all the time, so what do we do, man? What do we do? What's next? I'm like, there is no we, and that's the problem. We work on the we, and now we can talk about the plan that so many of us have. It's not just me. I've got notes upon notes and examples of all the different parallel systems that need to be built, ones that are already built, and we're working on making basically the yellow pages of how to find these systems in activist groups or nonprofits or examples of businesses that people can use, right? And we're working on that. But at the end of the day, this is a culture shift that we're asking people to engage in, because when you listen to the conservatives and their gripes, and you listen to the lefties and liberals and their gripes, like, those of us in the middle, which I would call myself in the middle of them, not a centrist, but I'm between these two very annoying fucking camps, and I can't stand it anymore. And so what I'm trying to do is hear what they're saying. I'm trying to boil down all their cultural differences into like a distilled version of it. Like, what the fuck are you people actually talking about? Because they won't. As of right now, they won't hear each other from across that chasm. So it's going to take a new group to step forward and say, this is what's missing actually, but this is what's required of you. Citizenship is not on autopay. You can't just have citizen duties just like droned to you. There's a disconnect here in this isolated world. Like, there are things that are necessary for each person to be doing in their communities to keep a country healthy, vibrant, and sustainable. There's just no two ways around it. And we used to call it the common good. And you didn't have to describe to people what the common good was. They knew what the fuck that was. Sorry, I don't know how many F-bombs I can drop on here, but...
I think it's about 7.
Yep, you're at your limit.
Shit, I'm sorry.
But that's what it comes down to, is that the people that cannot say what the common good is for, that's the education leaving our system, and thus with the education, you are not realizing what the point of it is. So then when you are told that greed is good, that once you get yours, that everything else is fine, you don't understand that just because somebody else is not getting paid enough, that your taxes are going higher because they have to go rely on the public good. And it is completely the different doors that we had to walk through to get here. It's showing people the truth. That's what I really think it is, because people feel the lack of mom and pop shops. They just look around and don't understand the actual reason. People feel that our politicians don't listen to us anymore. They've just been lied to. And then here's the third arm of it, the media and the narrative. We don't control shit anymore when it comes to that. We don't have independent journalists. We don't have anybody telling us the actual truth. And that's where I think just the truth is so powerful. That's the idea behind the free stickers, the idea behind we just need to start speaking out, because Tony said it. What do we do? Well, first we need to create that we. And I think you said it best, Zach, is where I look at it as this is not the 99 versus the 1. It is, sort of, but it's the 85 to 99 to get on the other side, to get on the 1% and or the 99% side, and to realize, well, if this isn't affecting me personally, then what's in it for me? And that's what we have to explain. And two things are going to happen. We're going to keep hammering the truth harder and harder, and people are going to keep looking for the truth, because right now there's a crack in the foundation, but it's on the other side of the house. But it is traveling over to their side. And unless they have enough foresight to see, there's going to be that, whether they see it ahead of time before that, painful moment comes, or whether it takes consequences actually affecting their lives before they move in, whether it's a big drop. I know that was my parents and my in-laws was seeing that big drop in the stock market and be, whoa, that was my retirement. What's going on there? And just start thinking about it a little bit. And then we could say, look, they're playing games. They don't work for us anymore. And it's so difficult because it's technically generational trauma what's happened. What should have happened in 180 years has been condensed into 50, 60, 70. So the life that we live is so far removed from our grandparents that our parents can't even fathom of it, who had a little piece of both, and now that think all the phones are the problem.
Look at what the Make America Great Again campaign really pulled off. Everybody knows something's wrong. They're just using different words to describe it. Everybody knows that something's screwed up here. Sorry, I almost did it again. I almost went for number 8. Everybody knows. I got to use them wisely, though. I'm not just.
The Bible clearly says 10 F words per podcast episode.
And then so it shall be. But yeah, you have to use their language. It's like when somebody goes to college and they learn about Marxism and Leninism and they're learning about socialism and they're like, why don't we have this? This seems way better than what these did. These people who are less intelligent than me would have said decades ago. Then they come home barking this stuff at grandma and grandpa. And grandma and grandpa have already been propagandized against all that stuff their entire lives. Anything left of a liberal Democrat is an extreme no-no. The propaganda's deep, baby. Like, deep. You're not undoing that. It's real to them, And I think you just speak their language, and we get them to understand that there is a version of the United States that was promised to us that is no longer here. The seeds of which aren't ripe anymore. The Princeton study proved that Congress does not move for us. There's a 30% likelihood that Congress is going to do something for us, whether 0% of us want it or 100% of us want it. The 99% got a flat line across the graph, which is insane to think about. But if you've got the dough, if you got the ducats, you got the paper. If no 1%ers wanted it, the graph's down here, and then the more of them that wanted something, the more likely it was that it was going to happen. But we in the 99% had a flat 30%, whether none of us wanted it or not. What does that tell you? And so that country that was promised to us is gone, and we all know it. And whether or not we want to admit it, it's that we want more accountability in government, and we want more prosperity and generational wealth at home.
So define it.
That's it.
Why haven't we had a social revolt?
So the media and the narrative and the fact,
There you
that they have done this division on purpose to keep us apart real quick. And I do want to get back and give my piece on the previous question in a second, but I wanted to answer that, where it's the reason that we're here is because they took away the free market. There's no more mom and pop shops, so we can't vote with our dollar anymore. It used to be that we could go down the street, and if somebody offered us bad products, bad services, we'd say, screw you, we're going to go down to Dan's Hardware. We don't have that anymore. Then, if that still isn't there, and if the free market is screwed, we could go talk to the politicians. We could be like, hey, y'all, shit's fucked. What's going on? And that's what we all did collectively in 2008. And I think that's where I learned as a late teenager, where it's like, oh, gosh, I really am screwed. They aren't doing anything for me. And that's where my mind started changing of, I'm getting out of here. But then finally the media reinforces all of that. They would rather have us point the fingers black or white, left or right, because if we all started realizing and got on the same page, we'd be pointing one particular finger straight up top. Add to all our creature comforts and the way that we are isolated. And I think I'll land the plane here, but they used to do all this to make money off of us. Then they realized they could isolate us to control us. And that's really, been the main shtick for the last 20 years or so.
Talk about Occupy Wall Street real quick. I think there's a lot of people listening that have no clue what that is, what it meant, what happened.
Occupy Wall Street was something that happened as a reaction to the bank bailouts. And it was younger boomers, Gen Xers, some older millennials. I would have been college age at this time. I was born in 85. And there were protests that ignited all over the United States that was specifically saying, hey, dear 1%, sorry we fell asleep, but we're awake now. Sincerely, the 99%. It's one of the more iconic signs from that time. And we were standing there basically demanding a change in this economic disparity. I mean, it was basically Bernie Sanders' wet dream. Because he had been talking about it for a long time. Him and Ron Paul, there were so many figures that had been talking about this phenomenon that was getting worse. And this is when it came to a head. And this is what I try to warn the Gen Zers about, is that movement fell apart because of a lack of leadership. They didn't have a strategic plan, a comprehensive plan. There was no structural integrity to their ideals after the flip, right? Say you got the flip. Say you got the conversation with Wall Street. Well, then what? Well, there was no plan. So there's no leadership, no structural plan, and then there was the infighting. All of a sudden, this is, to me, when this internet-based moral purity quest started on the left. And it really, to me, is its origins were what killed the Occupy Wall Street movement. Like, I know people who went home because, well, we ran into this other crew, and they were kind of like this, and da-da-da, and there it is. And that's when the 99% fails, is because we are divided, and I do agree with Cory on that, but I'll also say that we're hopeless. I think that's the deeper issue, is when you're doing well in your life as a business owner, Zach, I'm sure you know, when you're doing well, it's fun to think about 5 years into the future. It's fun to have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. You think, well, by then I'm going to be this and it'll be like that, and you're engineering your future in real time. And there are so many people in the United States who have no concept of what that feels like, to think positively about tomorrow, let alone 5 years from now. And the United States was supposed to be great because this was the land of promise, of prosperity and generational wealth. And the more we've allowed this wealth disparity and this concentration of corporate power, which is what Occupy stood against, the more we allow it to spread, the worse this gets, is what I'm trying to say, and the farther away the goalpost gets. And so people like me are trying to say, hey, whether you're a patriot or a socialist, don't let the Occupy movement happen again. Don't let this momentum fall away again. Don't do that. Don't do that. Roy might feel weird about trans people, but if he's there helping carrying boxes for the mutual aid, just be like, I'll use this one. Shut the fuck up, Roy, and carry the boxes, right? And the same with Alexander, the nose ring, blue-haired, Hot Topic assistant manager, starts griping at people about their sky daddy. Like, this religious, atheist, cultural, societal war that we're in will be the death of us. And then we will own nothing, and they'll tell us to be happy. But I don't think we will be. And that's the alternative. Like, we pull back against expansive, extractive power, or buckle in.
Well, I think that's why
Thanks,
Tony
Captain
and I meshed.
Ellison.
I think that's why we meshed so well. Is I feel like you saw 2000 and Occupy Wall Street in 2008, and we're like, how can I make sure that when our country is ready to do this again, that we don't run into the same pitfalls? And I remember coming to you and I said, Tone, I can see a point where all of us come together, where we're all like, yeah, this kind of sucks, but what do we do next? And you detailing those exact things for me, and it's very cool to see how that was constructed with you. And if I could real quick, Zach, to go back to what you asked earlier, is how do we get pretty much the top 80 to 95% of people to care about this? Tony likes to go the civic route. I like to hit them where it hurts, in their wallet. Because what we can really say, what I like to talk about all the time, and this is planting that seed, but it's why are there so many successful companies in this country and not a lot of successful employees? Well, then immediately they go to, oh, well, those employees are probably lazy. Maybe they don't budget so well. Well, then first we go, well, that's 208 million people. If they're lazy, why are we seeing record profits quarter after quarter? And the companies are doing great, but the employees aren't. Oh, well, maybe they're not budgeting well. Maybe they need to get more skills. And then what I really like to try to talk about, I don't have the perfect talking points yet, is that, well, the common good, those skills that those businesses are looking for, those skills were honed with things that we all pay for. The businesses don't pay for those schools that they're going to. They don't pay for the roads that they're on. The common good, and whether someone has access to it or not, is the largest determinant of whether they have those skills. So really what the system does is it insulates and it protects itself and says, if you are poor, it is your fault. If you are rich, it is your fault too, with completely putting aside all the facts that whether you were born to parents that read books or not, whether you were born in an area that had a good school or not, whether all these things that are social determinants, whether the zip code that you are in is the biggest determinant of where you end up in life, and understanding that we are all products of our society. We all need to be taken care of from baby up until age 18, 19, 20. But then the moment that person goes out in the real world, it's their fault for not having enough skills, even though it was us as a group that gave the conditions for them not to. So obviously that was a little convoluted, but it's simply about showing them that, look, it's not the way it used to be. It's good business to pay the employees that make you money, to keep them retained. Now we're all just essentially living in a giant company town. One of my favorite stats is, in order for us to, what wake people up is, oh, well, they can just go get another job. And it's like, well, but what if every single company in town was owned by the same owner? Well, that's what we've got. Over 85% of corporations on the S&P 500 have the same three top shareholders: Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. And I think that that's what they need to start gnawing on, and just have it in their head, well, how can 85% of corporations on the S&P 500 have the same three top shareholders? Well, it's no wonder that they purposefully overwork and underpay all of us, because they know that if they keep us without having security, that will be easy to divide, and that's the problems that we've been seeing with our country today.
300 years ago, you had to send men on horses to go and do that to people. And now it's the snake in the grass. We don't even know we're being bitten, bro. Like, marginalized communities, indigenous, black, like, all these people have been screaming it for a long time. It's like those old levels in Mario where they went straight up while the lava chased you from beneath and you had to, like, keep up, right? It's just now getting to the middle class. And you hear RFK talking about the strip mining of the middle class and all this stuff, and it's like, now they're like, oh, what's going on? And there's a whole bunch of people, down the socioeconomic ladder that are like, yeah! What do you mean, what's going on?
The marginalized society. We colonized the area that brought over the slaves, and original white family wealth was built off black family work. And it wasn't until the 1800s we kind of got rid of that. We just turned it into slave labor. And by the 40s, now we have, the 60s, you get the civil rights movement. That's 70 years ago. Yeah. That's a lifetime ago, one lifetime ago. And we expect marginalized societies to be able to pick themselves up by the bootstraps when you got a 230-year head start?
Some do. Some do great.
But the percentage is so much smaller in comparison to just having white skin or having a certain genitalia to be more or less successful, and you're right.
Sure.
When the white working class American is yelling about it, wow, it must really be bad. You're right, because there's so many other societies, so many other communities that have been marginalized for so long and voiceless for so long, and are probably like, finally, you guys are waking up.
Yeah, they're waking up, and it's not a moment too soon, honestly. And again, I've gone down so many of these rabbit holes, and Tiffany was the one who told me about price fixing as well. God bless Tiffany. She's one of the heroes of this sort of center movement in the country. But you can go down the conspiracy wormholes. You can go down the economic wormholes all the way back to 1913. Great year for finance. Great year. And all it ever leads you back to is seeing how our labor and our time and our future, thusly, is constantly being extracted away from us. Constantly being extracted away from us. So the idea of generational wealth, the idea of 5 and 10 year plans is now lost on people. And so the way to fight it back is the long game. Because I remember when I joined TikTok, the whole reason I stuck around is because that was during when the French were storming Black Rock HQ back in 2023. And I was like, this is pretty cool. But I don't think Larry Fink gives a shit now. What difference did that make? What difference did it do? What happened then? Luigi. Okay, cool, man. Cool. I liked Luigi as well whenever I played Mario Party. But, like, what's different? What happens? Nothing happens. No one's in jail. No one goes to federal prison. Nobody gets impeached, like, and removed. Like, nothing ever happens, regardless of the laptop or the kid sniffing or the implications or the D-class or the FOIAs or whatever. Like, nothing ever comes of any of this. And so why anybody has a continued faith in this system at this point, it's because they have their back to the lava that's rising up in that Mario level. Like, they don't even think it's going to ever affect them. And woe unto them if it does, because nobody's going to feel bad for them. And that's the scary part. And that's what somebody like me wants to avoid, because I'd rather see a unified populace that is hyper-localized, reestablishing supply chains that make sense for our country, instead of being in a constant, very brittle national security risk of supply chains. As we watch mental health decline, as we watch the wealth gap, grow and grow, and the houses disappear from access in the younger generations, we just see the concentration of wealth, which, again, like I said, 300 years ago, you needed to send dudes on horses with ballistas and trebuchets to accomplish. That was just called imperialism.
I get what you're saying there. It used to be obvious by the bloodshed that you were being marginalized.
You needed it. And in order to accomplish that amount of capital gain, that's imperialism. You're essentially buying people's towns and their futures and putting them under the rule of your arbitrary freaking arbitration agreement and the legal, yes, I agree to the terms and conditions of all this shit. And now you're subject to the age-old crown. It's just got a new name, and it doesn't wear fancy silk in public anymore. You don't even know the names of these people. But this is the new kingdom. And I know I sound crazy when I say it, but I ain't afraid to, man. That's just imperialism. Wearing a fancy suit.
That's why it's so insidious, right? And I think that's why this will be different than in times past. Because just like we are the 99, fight for 15, I think the more that we can get that bottom 70%, that bottom 75% to say the same things, shared language, to have the same acts, putting up stickers of the dragon being on the leash by a CEO, and really it needs to be, what I've been hitting lately is they're not the billionaires, they are the hoarders, because they continue to take more than what they need from people who don't. They are buying their fourth house before their employees can even afford one. And it has to be not this factual context of, oh, well, actually, this is it and this is it. No, frickin' feelings. That's what's happened with MAGA. That's what hit them so hard. They give them, hey, you're a part of us now. Put on your little cap and say the words all together now. F your feelings. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. You create this we that Tony was talking about. And what MAGA did for me was show me that it's possible. Because Trump came in and took the same anger that I know is there, the same anger that Tony knows is there, and they just pointed it straight down and to the left. And that was it. And if we can take that exact same anger and say, nope, and you got to do it in a certain way, because when somebody's been tricked, you don't go up to somebody eating a health bar that's full of chocolate and raisins and honey and say, you idiot, you actually thought that was healthy for you? So that's the last thing we can do to MAGA is go, oh, you fool, you fool. No, let's just aim together on the things that we agree on. That's that we all know this. Because here's what happens. My favorite joke, or what I saw earlier, is... who controls all the jobs? The wealthy. Who controls your retirement and the health care? The wealthy. Who controls the media? The wealthy. Who's the problem? Poor people. And that's the lie that they've done. And if all that we can do, if all this movement does is open those eyes up a little bit more to say, and what's that problem? To have half of the people say the ultra wealthy, that's all that we need. And the only way that we can do that isn't by having these conversations. It's by just having the phrases. They are not the billionaires, they're the hoarders. It's not left versus right, it's up versus down, because greed is the disease and everything else is just a symptom. I think one of the reasons that I am speaking out right now is because if we don't, then exactly what you're talking about will happen. Musk started that damn new party for a reason, because he feels and sees the same exact thing that we all do. That the alternatives that we have right now, soon people will reject it. Whether it comes from these next couple of years, whether there is this moment of pain that gets people, that has that lava rising and gets them feeling the heat. But what I think that what drives me most is not only changing the future for my daughters, it's that seeing that if we allow this vacuum to be consumed by more insanity, by less facts and more feelings, that is how our country continues to go down. And I think what needs to happen is somebody presents the alternative. And this is where I know what Tony is going to be talking about too, because if you are just shouting that the building is crumbling down, but you don't give people somewhere else to run, they will stay there until the roof collapses, because they cannot see where they're running to. They don't know where the fire exit is. And that's why this truth is so goddamn important, because that truth is the fire exit. That truth is the next building. And then I'll end it here, because the most important thing we can do is not just talk about what is wrong, but build what is right, so people can see where we are escaping to and where that safe haven is.
Well done, Cory. Where do I begin? How do I say this as quickly as possible so that people understand? This is about activation, not activism. The building being on fire might sound dramatic to some people who are doing all right now. But at the end of the day, there is a version of the United States that was promised to everybody, where prosperity and generational wealth weren't 11 bureaucratic forms and layers of deniability away from you. So if we want to re-own this economy, we have to bring it closer to us. And it begins by communicating with your neighbor. We have to know who these people are. You can't just assume someone's a Nazi or a communist or the worst versions of humanity simply because you've never talked to them. It's like a parent trying to get some child to eat broccoli and they say they don't like it even though they've never tried it. It's the most frustrating thing in the world if you've never experienced it. 0 out of 10, don't recommend. So what do? Everyone says, what do we do? At the end of the day, the opposite of big business is small business. Take your money, put it into a local credit union. Support small businesses around every corner. If you're in a position, maybe help businesses transition into an employee-owned business. Learn with your Kiwanis, your Rotary, your mayor, your city council. I know this feels overwhelming, but if we don't have an active and alert citizenry, this gets worse. And I use the term active and alert citizenry specifically because that's exactly what Eisenhower said in his farewell speech in 1960, looking directly into the camera, into the eyes of the American people, warned us of the military-industrial complex and the implications of what would happen if it grew to be too big. And he said only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can protect us against it. And what does that mean? It means being a citizen. It means playing the game we call Sims, but only in real life. And if you're not doing it, if you're not thinking about all the things that a society needs to run and trying to be industrious, which means skillful and ingenious, not a good worker bee. Industrious, skillful, and ingenious. Play the damn game like The Sims, or a very small group of people are going to be playing it for you. And the future that's being designed, you can look it all up. It doesn't seem to be very kind to the average citizen. So if you want to be on the right side of history, get to work where you can see the results and know your neighbor. Because if the big oh shit happens, Zach, if the pitchforks come out, there is no controlling it. And if somebody has heeded our advice on this corner of the internet, your community will be safer longer because you were civilization-minded first. You've got your rations, you've got your network, you've got your things in place, whether it's energy, healthcare, transportation, water. The off-gridders know what's up. And that used to be localized utility. That used to be. Long ago. And so, if we don't play that game and have that active and alert citizenry, we get a world that's totally beyond our control. That will have no helpline that you can call. That'll just be a series of AI automated robots to reach your representative. I know that seems crazy. But that's my worst fever dream version of what I think's coming over the next 5 years, because I think that everyone thinks the revolution is violent. And I'll leave you with this, man. And the people who will pull out the pitchforks first have no concept of civilization building. They think that government is a system that you press a button and you turn it on. The democracy button's not working. I voted this way. And it's like, no. Civilization's an active process that requires things of you, and me, and him, and her, and they, and them, regardless of any of it. And if we're not doing it, then fuck us when somebody else takes the wheel and steers it in a direction that works out better for them rather than us. It's an entire chunk of the civic process missing that goes beyond the ballot box. Way beyond the ballot box. And we're not thinking in this way. So the first ones with the pitchforks will be just trying to dismantle it. Burn it down to the ground and fly a fucking one-piece flag. Sorry, there's my third one. I'm done. You can't just fly the pirate straw hat flag and call it a day. Yay, we burned Parliament. Now what? What's your strategic plan? Have you ever even heard of one? Did you know that your city probably had one that just sat dusty on a shelf while they got enriched by more corporate franchises as they came to town? It's so apparent now, but if we keep viewing the lens through right and wrong, left and right, liberal, conservative, if we keep playing that game, we will lose. They're counting on us to continue playing that game. They're counting on the seams to burst and to someone to pick up the pitchforks and do it first. Because then we got to have national security.
Yep,
we're going to have Palantir. Yep, Patriot Act 2.0.
Tony, Cory, black out the system and take it back, and Middle Road Society. Is that, Tony, your best one at Middle Road Society on all platforms?
Sanity. Yep, Middle Road Sanity.
Middle Road Sanity.
You can find me there on the TikToks.
Cory, where am I finding you at, brother?
The takeitbackmovement.com. And then we are blacking it out to take it back, because essentially Take It Back movement is all about connecting mass action with everyday life. Because we believe that these boycotts, these strikes, these blackouts, they hit harder when we've all done the practice and the work beforehand, when we've put up the stickers, when we've told our friends, when we've already started reorganizing our life. So the fact that we are together now and partnered is the most perfect partnership in the world, because it takes this mass action, puts the strategy and the ideas behind it that, yeah, we understand that boycotts on its own might not work. That's why that's not exactly what this is. We're building a community of people who are ready to change their habits long term. We call it a civic force to incite a cultural shift.
Tony, Cory, 10 out of 10 conversation, 10 out of 10 F words used, all 10 out of 10. Guys,
Appreciate it, man.
Go follow these gentlemen, and we will have further conversations right here. But please go follow them so you can hear the conversations they have with their audience around taking back the system, because I think that's where a lot of creators are like-minded in this sphere of creation right now. We just need organization. So, we'll leave you with that.
Truth.
Have a great day, guys.
You too, brother.
Bye.
How do you put a ribbon on a conversation about such matters? Well, to summarize the conversation, we talked about everything from localization, which is getting involved in your local governments, your local food systems, shelter systems, just the local economy, energy, utilities, and how maybe you could get involved in more of those conversations on the boards, at the meetings, getting within the minutes with these people who are making these calls. And he mentioned something there at the end, bringing in the comprehensive plan, the local strategy. I encourage everyone listening to me right now, look this up in your area. I'm going to be looking it up in mine, and I'll bring this to you. But look up your comprehensive plan, your local strategy, and see if you can find something in your PDF. See if you can find something in the archives. Here's one thing I will say about this conversation. This conversation is very top level because we need a plan, an action plan of not just how to do it, but what would be on the other side of it. See, many people look at France, many people look at Rome as examples of this revolt, but look at the back end of it. There wasn't organization around what's next. There wasn't organization around governance. There wasn't organization around food, shelter, water, basic utilities. And so they were recaptured by billionaires shortly thereafter. So the question remains not just when will the social revolt happen, but I'd offer a deeper side to the question now, as we will have more conversations with these gentlemen and others around what would the other side look like and how do we remain organized from it. This has been episode 30 with a little bit of grainy audio. I hope you were able to manage to push yourself through it. And we'll see you on the next episode. As long as you're subscribed, only subscribers can watch the next one. That's a lie, but have a great day.